Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Hi, everyone. We want to welcome you into our podcast today, and thank you for joining us at 100% Fed Up. Today, we have some very special guests. First of all, I want to introduce my co-host, Matt Seeley, who's a Michigan resident, who has co-hosted with me before, and I love having Matt co-hosting with me because he has so much knowledge on so many subjects, especially when it comes to our freedoms and our liberties. Which brings me to our very special guest, 13-year-old Parker and her dad, Scott, who are joining us from Michigan. Matt and I are both Michigan residents, as many of you know, but I noticed a Facebook post by Parker's dad, Scott, that really caught my attention. First of all, it was just the cutest picture of Parker, who's just adorable, as everyone can see. She's a 13-year-old student, and she was faced with a little bit of a dilemma at her school recently. And I don't want to tell too much about the story about what happened. I'm going to let Parker tell our viewers her story about what happened. I think it was last week, Parker?
It was last week or 2 weeks ago, yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's near the start of the school year. So I'm going to let Parker tell her story and explain to us here today and why she's bravely speaking out about her story and the decision that she made in her school. Parker?
So we found out that they were mandating masks, and I personally don't like wearing masks. But I don't mind if other people do, but that day I made the decision completely on my own. I chose not to wear a mask, and I walked up to the school, and the vice principal asked me to put a mask on or to go to the office and put a mask on and get a mask from them. But I just went to my first hour instead, and there were teachers counting in the hallway, like who had like masks on and who didn't. And I think there was only like 2 other people that didn't, but I think they ended up putting them back on. But I walked into my first hour, and we had testing that day, like statewide testing. So we had to get like computers. So I went up to the Chrome cart, but I wasn't sure if we had numbers because I had missed the previous class. And so I asked the teacher if she had assigned numbers, and she said no and asked me to put a mask on. I said, okay. I went to grab my Chromebook and walked back to my seat. And I don't do testing in that class because that's my links class, so I help a special needs kid in that class. But I still got a Chromebook. And she came over to my desk and handed me a mask and told me to put it on. And she went back to her desk, but I just put the mask back in my bag. And a couple minutes later, she came up and told me to pack my things and go down to the office. So I went down to the office, and my cheer coach and the secretary were there. And they thought I was late, so they told me to sign in, but I had told them I was from my teacher's classroom. So they told me to put a mask on or I could leave. I said, okay, and I started walking out. The secretary asked for my name. I didn't respond, but my cheer coach told her. And right after that, my cheer coach told me not to go to practice that night. And I walked out. They never contacted a parent or guardian or what you want to call it, emergency contact. And my mom was still in the parking lot for the small protest that was going on at the high school.
Okay, so just to kind of recap Parker's story, her courageous stand that she took against wearing a mask. She decided not to wear a mask. And when you ended up ultimately in the principal's office, they told you if you weren't going to wear a mask to leave?
Correct.
You didn't have a parent there. There was nobody to give you a ride home. And approximately how far do you live from the school, Parker?
7 miles, I think.
Okay. So 7 miles. You live 7 miles from the school approximately, and you didn't have a parent there to take you home. They just told you to leave, and they did not call either one of your parents. Is that correct?
My mom was still on school property, but they did not call either of my parents.
Okay. And so your mom was taking part in a small protest in the parking lot, correct?
Yeah, but they did not know my mom was still there.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to clarify that because when I first heard that story, it was just incredible to me. As a parent of 3 daughters, it's really hard for me to fathom a school telling one of my daughters to leave at 13 years old, living 7 miles away and not having a parent to take her home. And that was it. They just kind of sent you out the door and you were on your way.
So I have to say, Parker, I find your story really inspiring because I don't think there's very many kids that understand that they have rights, they have liberties, just like adults do. And, funny thing about being an American citizen is when you're born, the moment you're born on U.S. soil, you become a United States citizen. And the minute you become a United States citizen, you are guaranteed all the rights and protections under the Constitution that a 21-year-old adult are. So, I mean, the idea that you feel like your rights are being violated and that you don't feel like they have the right to tell you to wear a mask, and you're peacefully protesting and doing exactly what Rosa Parks did in the sense that you were peacefully disobedient, and ultimately their reaction to that was to tell you to leave the school. They never formally told you you were expelled because they know that they can't, and they basically sent you out into the street. And here the whole premise of you wearing a mask was for your safety, but yet they would eject you from the school out into the street, not knowing your mother was there, knowing that you have a 7-mile trek to get home where anything could have happened to you at 13. And, obviously that's an unsafe decision to make. So in one sense, they're telling you they're doing something for your safety because they're concerned for your safety, and yet they do something so radical that could have really put you in harm's way. So it proves that they really never had the intention of protecting your safety. The other thing that's important to understand is that the various counties in the state of Michigan, the health department directors, human and health service directors, have all made different decisions about this. So it's a political issue. It isn't a health issue. If it was a health issue, they'd all be in lockstep on this decision for kids to wear masks. So I applaud you in understanding that you have rights, that, in the original document of the Declaration of Independence, where we were being completely abused and suppressed by the crown, that ultimately Thomas Jefferson wrote that, we are endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you understand that. And that's an inspiring thing for me to see. And I think it's going to be an inspiring thing for other kids. Ultimately, if they were to let you back in school, but they told you you had to wear a mask, would you go back?
If they made me wear a mask, I would not. No.
Okay, good for you. So you understand it's your choice. Couple of questions. You said you're a cheerleader. During the football games on your school property, how many people are usually in the stands? Couple hundred?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Are they required to wear masks?
No.
The football players that are out there on the field and they're huffing and puffing because they just finished a play and they're in a huddle all next to each other. Are they wearing a mask?
No.
Are the cheerleaders on the sidelines wearing a mask?
Nope.
So it's kind of interesting to me that here we are on school grounds after hours, and evidently the health director's directive for the county doesn't matter after school hours for football games where you have enormous amounts of people gathering. You know, when the former President Trump used to come to Michigan for rallies last year, they used to call them super spreader events and that no one was safe being outside. And here you guys all are outside and no one's wearing a mask.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Scott. I'm going to ask Scott, her dad, to jump in at this point because Scott and I had a conversation about actually the day after Parker left school, was asked to leave school because she wouldn't wear a mask to school. The school had an event the next day. Scott?
They had a game the next night. Yes.
Okay, so they had a game the next night. And it's a special event. It's a great event. It's commemorating the heroes of 9/11, which is awesome. But unfortunately, it was the day after Parker was asked to leave school for refusing to wear a mask. How many people attended that football game, Scott, would you say?
It's definitely a couple thousand. The stands are full.
And were they asked to wear masks at the game?
No, they were not.
Okay.
Nope.
So that was the day after Parker was asked to leave school.
Yep.
Same week.
Okay. And Parker, have you been getting support from people at school for your decision?
I have, yes.
Yeah. You know, I was really touched by a letter that Parker wrote, and I'll share it. I'm planning on writing an article on 100% Fed Up after the interview, but I was really touched by a letter that she wrote. And in the letter that Parker wrote about her decision, she talked about the courage that she had to defy the mask order. And it really struck me, for somebody who's 13 years old, Parker talked about how she wasn't just doing it for herself, she was doing it for the other kids who maybe were afraid to stand up. And she also talked about being shy and that it's really not her personality to do something like this. So for me to think about when I was 13 years old, doing something like this is just incredible. I mean, there's so much peer pressure. So I want to say as a mom, and just as an American, how very proud I am of you and how inspiring your story is to other kids your age and even, you know, adults. This is an inspiring story to every American about how important it is to stand up for our rights. And, I just want to congratulate you for that, for taking a stand and really doing something very important. And I think that what you did, it just takes one person to have a ripple effect on other students. I know that I'm up in northern Michigan right now, and I know that the school up here, Gaylord High School, has been grappling with the same issue. And there are several kids that have come together and they're standing up for their right to not have to wear a mask to school. So it's a lot easier to do in a group. It's a lot harder to do as one person. So yeah. And then Matt, you had some things that you wanted to add too, I know.
Yeah, I do. I think one of the important messages here is that Parker is understanding not only that she has personal freedoms and rights, but you know, it's very important, I think, especially for young girls, to understand that if they're not comfortable and they feel uncomfortable when someone's making a request of them to do something with their physical being, that they have the right to speak up and not be afraid of retribution, that they shouldn't just completely be obedient to authority figures. We saw what happened up at Michigan State University to all of those gymnasts that were afraid to speak out and tell someone the abuse that they were being subjected to. And I don't think that we're sending a very good message to other young ladies that if someone says something as simple as, you put this mask over your face or else, that if you're not comfortable with someone making you do that, then you have the right to say no. And I really applaud you for recognizing that you have that right and sending a message to other young girls that no adult has that authority over you or your person.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, we try to teach our daughters that they need to be respectful, but there's also a line that you have to draw when someone's, violating your rights or violating you. And, if we teach our daughters that it's wrong to stand up for something like wearing a mask, how do we draw the line? Yeah, Matt, that's a great point. I know that Scott, there was your wife had mentioned, we talked to her earlier, she had mentioned that there was a school board meeting recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that school board meeting that took place?
Excuse me. It was this past Monday night, and obviously because of this mandate, there's a lot of concern from the parents, and there's going to be a big crowd there. And just under 20 minutes before the meeting was going to start, the county updated the mandate saying that everybody that attends any school function indoors, including school board members, would be required to wear the mask. And obviously that didn't turn out very well, and the meeting was adjourned. So it's tough when they switch the rules on the spot like that.
So they switched the rules right just before the meeting, correct? And the meeting was the mask mandate for the kids, yet they weren't requiring the adults to wear masks. And we talked about this a little bit, but from my viewpoint, there are a couple different reasons. One certainly could be optics. I mean, it doesn't look very good to be forcing our children, who, as Matt so brilliantly pointed out, have the same rights as we do, to wear masks to school, yet the parents were not obligated, nor were the members of the school board to wear masks for the school board meeting. So they quickly changed that 20 minutes before. And I also want to point out in the state of Michigan, this is not a statewide mandate. Each individual health department is making these decisions. And so there are some counties that have mask mandates and some that don't. And so it's very illogical. It doesn't make any sense. Each county is making this decision on their own, and they're not really giving parents a scientific reason for wearing the masks. I think that, Parker, maybe you can tell me. I think that one of the hardest parts about wearing masks is A, it's uncomfortable, and B, kids are, taking their masks off. I mean, when you go to lunch and take off your mask, what do the kids do with their masks?
We didn't have lunch last year, and I wasn't here this year for it with masks, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing that they have to put their mask somewhere, right? And then they're going to put their mask back on again. And Matt, we talked about this a little earlier about the mask wearing and how much the masks really are protecting these kids. But I just wanted to point out that this is not a statewide mask mandate. The decisions are being made by each individual county health department director, the health director in each county. So there's a lot of inconsistency there. And I think that your wife mentioned, Scott, that only 3 miles away in another county, there is no mask mandate. So apparently COVID doesn't spread at schools in the county next door to you, three miles away, but COVID does definitely spread in the county where your daughter and son attend school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that Parker can attend school there?
We're definitely exploring other options. That's for sure.
What are you doing now for school, Parker?
My wife has just been looking into other options. She's just been doing the.
Have you done
Google
any
Classroom
schooling yet, or
any what?
Homeschooling, or?
That's what we're looking into right now.
I took placement tests for a program, but we aren't sure about it yet.
What are your friends?
There's a lot out there for that.
What are your friends saying to you about this?
They're like, "Oh, we miss you at school," but they're happy I stood up for myself.
Do they think you're doing the right thing?
Yes.
Do some of them wish that they had the guts to do what you're doing?
Yes.
It's funny. Well, maybe you can inspire other kids. You know, the good news is that there's an initiative that's taking place in Michigan right now called Unlock Michigan 2.0. And one of the parts of this initiative, and the language has already been approved by our state Senate and House. So if we gather 500,000 signatures, we're going to actually put into place rules that restrict the county health departments from having the authority to do what they're doing in your schools. That only the legislature will be able to give them the authority to declare an emergency and mandate anything. So a lot of the things in Michigan right now have been exploited and not necessarily done for health reasons, but more political. And I want you to let you know that we, the people, once again, have proven that we have the power. We rescinded a 1945 law that the governor was using to keep businesses closed, force us to wear masks in restaurants, shut us into our homes. And we repealed that law through the same process. So this is an important thing for you to understand and for your friends to understand, that ultimately the people are the ones who run this government. And you have the same rights as I do, and you have the same voice as I do. Your First Amendment allows you freedom of speech. It allows you the freedom to assemble. And you are allowed, under the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. So that means you got to get treated the same way as me. So how can you have one county being treated one way and another county being treated another? So really, really happy to have had the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about this. If you could talk to all the other kids out there, what advice would you give them about it?
That there's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself, and if you do it, be proud of it. It's the best way I can word it.
And you should be proud.
Do you feel like you were ever disrespectful, like you said anything rude or disrespectful to the adults that were trying to force you to put on a mask? Or do you feel like you were just appropriately firm and stood your ground?
I don't think I was disrespectful to any adults in that situation. I tried to be as polite as possible, with still
Going against the
yeah.
against the mandate, yeah.
So the other question,
The
other question I have is, let's flip the coin now. How did the adults treat you?
They
Do you feel like they were disrespectful to you?
no. I mean, they might disagree with my opinions, but
That's good. Do you feel like they were mean to you?
no. I don't think they should have kicked me out, but
Right. Well, that's good.
Do you miss cheer because you're not able to cheer because of your decision? Correct. You're a cheerleader for the school. So how hard has that been for you? Is it missing out on cheer practices and cheerleading at games?
I miss it. I have done cheer for a long time. I definitely miss it, but it was worth it, and I'm proud of what I did.
Well, we're proud of you too, Parker, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate. I'm grateful that I saw your dad's post, because he was very proud of you, and he posted your story on Facebook, and I saw it and I reached out to your dad, and he graciously agreed to put me in touch with you and to do an interview with us. There are very few people your age that have the kind of courage that you have. I want you to know that. I want you to know how special you are and how much you inspire other people. And like I said before, it's not just people your age. You inspire adults to take a stand against this kind of thing. And it's up to parents. It's not just up to the kids. It's up to the parents to stand up for the rights of their kids. I mean, I'm sure you'd love to see your friends' smiling faces at school. I'm sure everybody would like to see the emotions, again, of the students that are sitting next to them or in their classroom or even in the hallway. I mean, I can't imagine, we've never had to live through anything like this, what it would be like to be in school and all of your fellow classmates wearing face coverings. So, I do think, Parker, that one person can make a huge difference. And I'm hoping that your story will resonate with a lot of people and will help other kids to make the same decision.
Absolutely. The other
I
thing
agree.
is, Patty, I think that ultimately we're going to find that the best way to combat COVID is to get a job at Kroger or at Home Depot, because evidently you can work around thousands of people on a daily basis and just be fine. So that must be the trick.
Yeah. Or you could,
Because when we were all shut in for 30 days to slow the spread, they all worked at the grocery store and at the Home Depot through it all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just an amazing thing.
it is an amazing thing.
There's something about when you cross the threshold in the doors of those two businesses that you're just covered in a blanket of safety.
Right.
Well, and it's a lot easier to tell kids in a classroom or kids in a school that they have to wear masks because kids are used to being obedient in school and doing what they're told. I mean, that's just, as parents, we tell our kids to listen to your teachers and to, listen to the administrators in your school and do as you're told. But in this case, this is a unique situation. This isn't a normal everyday situation where the teachers are telling you to do your homework. They're telling you to wear a face covering that has been proven over and over again to not be just the spread of COVID.
Living a resident in Michigan, I got to ask you, during the winter, do you notice that the teachers and administrators tell kids before they leave the school, get a warm hat, you're not wearing gloves, why don't you have boots on? Do they say that to the kids or not?
Yeah,
Or
they said it a lot more a while ago, or like in elementary school.
Right.
But now, do they care if you wear a warm coat?
No.
Okay. Kind of funny that they'll send you out into sub-zero weather and that's okay. But if you don't wear a mask inside, you got to get out of the school. You're not safe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Well, those are all
hours
points.
identifying hypocrisy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, those are all great points that I just really, again, Parker, I want to thank you and your dad, Scott, for coming on. I want to thank Matt for co-hosting with me today. As usual, you had a lot of great insight. And we'll be in touch with you, Parker, and maybe we'll do some sort of follow-up interview with you and just kind of see how you're doing if you're interested. But we really appreciate your time. You're the bravest little 13-year-old girl in Michigan. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Not only that, I think if we do a signature drive in your area for Unlock Michigan 2.0, you should be there because it's important that we clip the wings on all of these, human and health services directors that feel that they have the ability to overlord an entire county worth of people without any oversight at all. I mean, you're looking at unelected officials who are making decisions for entire counties worth of people.
Yeah, and before we go, I just want to point out that Parker attends school in Fenton, and she's in Genesee County. So Genesee County is the county where they have the mandate for kids only that have to wear masks in indoor settings. So it's just specifically targeted at kids.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Unfortunately.
yeah.
And what's hilarious about it is it's not based in any law. It's not based on even an executive order, which isn't a law. It's just based on the decree of a bureaucrat to be in charge of the human services for a county. And it's based on nothing than that.
Right.
Right.
So
And it's targeted at kids only.
what legal standing do they really have?
What was
Go
that,
ahead,
Parker?
Scott.
No, sorry.
We're just saying, I mean, the adults get away with it, after hours, but while the kids are at school,
They are required to wear them
during school. But
During school.
after hours at all these other events, no masks.
So as soon as school lets out, the teachers can lose the masks.
Yeah.
Do you know of any teachers, Parker, that said, wow, this is really stupid, but we have to do it?
None that I know of. None of
Do you
my
know of any-
teachers, at least.
Do you know of any teachers in the school system that refuse to wear a mask and aren't working because of it?
Nope.
I haven't heard of that either.
Yeah, it's much easier to be obedient. It really is than to be defiant. And even the teachers have a hard time, standing up for what's right. So,
Yeah.
well, we thank you, Parker and Scott, for coming on today, and Matt again for joining us. And we'll follow up
My
with you,
pleasure.
Parker. You all have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got my pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit